The question we can ask, though, in other words, what if socialism of the 21st century had been introduced in the 20th century? But the question is, what about socialism for the 21st century? Is it only a concept? Is it only a specter? I described it as a specter. Well, we could talk about the aspects of this in discussion. There's definitely an attempt to make this specter real in Venezuela at this time. And although it is attempting to advance all three sides of the socialist triangle, and most clearly and most excitingly with the development of communal councils in Venezuela, councils, neighborhood councils, which consist of 200 to 400 families in the urban areas, in which the basic decision body is the assembly of all the members in that neighborhood, which engage in participatory budgeting, participatory diagnosis. This is, and which Chavez calls the cell of the new socialist state. There are many attempts of this nature happening in Venezuela, but, there are many obstacles. That specter of socialism for the 21st century is far from being realized at this point. And the obstacles in Venezuela, both internal obstacles, and we could never forget US imperialism as the external obstacle, are immense. Nevertheless, that specter of socialism for the 21st century has far more substance than the specter that Marx and Engels wrote about in the Communist Manifesto in the 19th century. The specter of socialism for the 21st century is a specter, but there are attempts to build it. And it is a specter which is capable of becoming a material force. It's capable of grasping the minds of masses precisely because of its focus on human development and practice. When I go back to Canada and I talk in meetings, I say, look, the whole question of making decisions in your workplace, workers' management, and the whole question of making decisions in your neighborhood, this doesn't require oil wealth. You can introduce this here. Go thou and do likewise. It's possible to attract people who are completely alienated from the nature of the society because they know they have no power, to attract them and make this socialism for the 21st century a material force. In other words, socialism for the 21st century offers a vision which both reinvents socialism and recovers Marx. But remember, Zizek has three scenarios. So there's a third scenario. And that third scenario is one in which we are too demoralized by the failures of socialism of the 20th century. We decide that, in fact, there's no alternative to this horrible state we're in right now, and that socialism for the 21st century cannot possibly work. That scenario ends with barbarism. Because, in this society, in this world of capitalist crisis, in this world of ecological disaster, and the specter of barbarism, we desperately need the vision of socialism for the 21st century because the alternatives before us very clearly are socialism or barbarism. So thank you, and I hope I didn't bother you too much or make you work too hard. Good.
So now we have time for some questions. You can ask the questions in Croatian or in English. We have translations, so please. And Michael said he would be very happy if he could answer some questions because Guatemala is also late and we have like 40 minutes.
No problem.
So here is the first question.
Profesor Lebowitz je pomenuo u svom predavanju neke od uzroka raspada, dakle tog samoupravnog modela socijalizma. Međutim, čini mi se da u toj analizi nije uključen jedan vrlo važan, bar po meni, faktor, a to je neokrnjeni, ponavljam, potpuno neokrnjeni i nedignuti partijski monopol na vlast. Dakle, monopol Saveza komunista, ali partija ne samo da nije ono što bi trebalo da čini da usmerava razvoj tog samoupravnog modela, nego je partija bila, ili bolje reći, ona vrhuška unutar partije, deformisana, rekao bih, potpuno, dakle, izvitoperena od izvornog nekog marksizma, glavni upravljač u našim, hajde kažemo, jugoslavenskim preduzećima. Kada ste govorili o grupnom interesu, dakle, po kompanijama, po firmama, po preduzećima, kako bi se to reklo, taj grupni interes je na izgled samo bio, pa po meni, tehnomenadžerski, jer su i ti tehnomenadžeri zapravo bili najobičnija transmisija partije, deformisanog vrha partije, i naravno taj grupni interes po pojedinim firmama, po pojedinim regijama bio je moguć između ostalog i zato što je tržište praktično bilo već od 1950. godine, dakle uvođenje toga modela, nasuprot onom krutom sovjetskom državnom, bilo liberalizirano iz godine u godinu. Mi smo imali strahovitu inflaciju, mi smo imali neverovatne tržišne konjunkture i sasvim je logično da su pojedine firme zapostavili taj opšti komunalni interes za račun svog sopstvenog. I oni su se onda, upravo zahvaljujući tom tržištu, koji je, kao što naravno znamo, je produkt kapitalizma kao sistema, te firme su, dakle, zahvaljujući tom tržištu i uticaju na tržištu morale praktično da maksimiraju svoj profit. Radnici su bili zainteresovani da njihova firma ima što bolja sredstva za proizvodnju, čak na račun drugih, recimo. Tako da je bio ta takozvana nelojalna konkurencija, i tako dalje, i tako dalje. Dakle, sve ono što prati jedan normalan razvoj zapadnih kapitalističkih društava. Dakle, da skratim, smatram da su razlozi zaista složeni, da model samoupravni je teoretski potpuno moguć, čak i praktično je moguć, ali da ova dva faktora po meni, dakle, neokrnjeni partijski monopol i uvođenje tržišta u jako velikoj meri, da je naravno doprineo deformaciji tog samoupravnog modela. Hvala.
Well, thank you very much for the question. I think that I don't have a great disagreement with you. I think that the existence of self-interest, the orientation towards self-interest, though, is a sufficient condition for the disintegration that occurred. Now, added to that was the question of the party's control. And I should say that one of the books I've been working on, in fact, it was a portion of the book that I've finished, but it got so large I had to put it aside for another book, is a book I call, it's part of a two-volume work on studies in the development of socialism, and the first volume being Contradictions of Real Socialism, Essays in the Vanguard Relations of Production. And in fact, my analysis of real socialism is that the vanguard sees possession of production rather than the workers having the possession of production, and that many things follow from precisely that. We can't go into that particular question, but I think that, I'm very interested in and would like to talk to you after, if we can somehow manage, to find out how the enterprises function differently because of the party's role as opposed to simply being under the control of managers. Was the party, and to what extent, over the period of time, my recollection in reading was that in the course of the 60s, the party became more and more composed of managers and technical experts and less of manual workers. That there was that change in the composition of the party. So these are not independent issues at all. But